Hi, come in, sir.
Yes, come in.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please be seated.
Thank you, sir.
Are you fully vaccinated?
Yes, sir.
No symptoms of COVID?
No, sir.
You may remove your mask. Sparsh Yadav,
Yes, sir.
please introduce yourself to the board, highlighting your educational qualification and work experience, if any.
Sir, my name is Sparsh. I was born and raised in Gurgaon, after which I did my bachelor's in electronics and communication from NIT Kurukshetra. Post my bachelor's, I went for a job in Tejas Networks, and after that I worked as a freelancer and with other companies as well. So in 2019, I applied for my master's in aerospace engineering, particularly guidance, navigation and control in IISc Bangalore. So I've submitted my thesis in February 2022, and my defense is still pending.
Now you want to become a member of the Indian Forest Service.
Yes, sir.
Sparsh, tell me, you are such a qualified person. Why didn't you decide to continue your career in the area of your studies?
So there are several reasons for this. So firstly, sir, I believe that environment is at forefront now, that if we want sustainable development in our country, we have to conserve our environment, and environment in general and forest as well. So secondly, I came across this excerpt from Jawaharlal Nehru's speech in which he says that we are little men serving a great cause. So that line has stuck with me, and in forest service or in civil services in general, I'll be able to work I'll be performing the sovereign functions. So that is one of the reasons. And so finally, sir, I realize in my master's, as I go for PhD, my scope will get very narrow. Already I'm working on a very narrow field, so the forest service will provide me a very diverse opportunity.
How do you think that forest service is going to provide you a much greater, larger canvas to work in?
Sir, in forest services, when I was studying, even my option was forestry. So if we look at the different domains we have in forestry, we have the scientific management of forest, we have the environmental aspect in that, ecological aspect in that. So we have a legislative aspect, what are the laws under which we have to work. And so scientific management particularly. So I believe, sir, this is a very diverse region in which that needs expertise from different fields.
Sparsh, you are from Gurgaon.
Yes, sir.
Where the forest coverage is very low.
Yes,
isn't
sir.
it? Suppose you get into the forest service and you are asked to improve the green area of Gurgaon,
Yes, sir.
so as to make it comparable or at par with the national average. How will you go about it? So
the forest cover in Haryana is approximately 3%, which is very less than the national average of 24%. So there are reasons for that.
We are not interested in reasons.
Yes,
it's
sir.
A quantum jump from 3% to 24%.
Correct.
Do you
sir.
have any vision in your mind?
So Haryana has a Aravalli range in the southern part of Haryana. So that land is getting degraded these days, so that we can conserve that area, and we can have that area is not currently being used as well, and there are no significant major minerals also that are found in that region. So that area I believe can be converted into a forest, and we can prevent their land degradation from mining. Sir, in the urban regions also, sir, we can use land reclamation. We see, so there are landfills that can be cleaned and that can be used as forest space. So we can use land reclamation in the urban areas as well.
Thank you, Sparsh.
Sparsh?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. While mathematics help in forestry?
So there is several ways we can use mathematics in forestry. So firstly, when we talk about mensuration and measuring the growing stock, so mathematics is used in that. If we want to calculate the height of the trees, or we want to calculate the volume of the stock we have available, in that scenario mathematics will be helpful. So secondly, if we are using drones, then we have images. So compiling those images, processing those images is all related to mathematics. So it can be, it is widely applicable, so mathematics and forestry.
And can you highlight India's 3 contributions in the field of mathematics, that is to the world?
So firstly is the number 0. So that is the decimal system we have because of that. So secondly, sir, our Indian mathematician Aryabhatta, he worked on trigonometry. Sir, and Sir Ramanujan, he worked on infinite series.
Anything else?
So I cannot recall right now.
And what is Vedic mathematics?
So Vedic mathematics is techniques that allow us to perform calculations faster. They are simple techniques by which we can solve multiplications and such techniques much faster than a calculator, even if we have enough practice in that.
Have you practiced it?
Sir, I have not practiced it, sir.
No problem. Given the opportunity, you will like to practice.
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir.
Have you heard of Ramsar Sites?
Yes, sir.
What is this?
So Ramsar Sites are designated as a designation for wetlands that need to be conserved, and they are under the Ramsar Treaty in 1971. We have 49 sites in India that need to we need to conserve these wetlands because they are kind of an ecotone in which we have very diverse biodiversity, and they also provide livelihood to a large number of people. So it becomes important that we conserve these sites.
How many Ramsar sites are there in Haryana?
Sir, in Haryana, sir, I can remember 2 right now. So I'm not sure, but I think there are 2 Ramsar sites in Haryana.
Okay. You have just talked about sustainable development.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now there is a great deal of controversy between development work
Yes, sir.
and conservation.
Yes, sir.
So how to balance the two in order to achieve sustainable development?
Sir, it is true that sometimes environmental conservation is seen as a challenge and an impediment to development. So we can balance these. So the foremost thing I think is the environmental impact assessment that can be done before a project is initiated. So we have a balanced view and we look out all the alternatives that are possible instead of that particular project and how we can mitigate the impact of that particular project. So recently also there was a news that they are planning a 5-star hotel in near the Jog Falls. So an EIA will help in estimating the impact that it will have. So that will help us balance it. So secondly, I think if alternatives are possible, we should go for that particular thing. If it is so, for example, if a mine of uranium is found and it is important, if it is for national security or national security, so then only should we go for that.
Okay, Sparsh, thank you.
Sparsh, you've done mathematics, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, a simple mathematics question. You mentioned that your father is a farmer.
Yes, sir.
But still there is no agricultural income.
Yes, sir.
What's the math?
Sir, my grandfather has had the land, but it has recently passed on to my father.
So
that agriculture income was not in his.
But he was working. If he was working, he'll be getting some income.
So he was not working for the past few years. So we were getting rental income. So that is so we were like from the rental income.
Okay, Sparsh, you've also mentioned that you were a hacker. I mean, hacker of a sort. I mean, the cyber security expert.
Yes, sir.
Can you just explain to us the Pegasus thing,
yes,
the
sir.
0-click thing? How can this 0-click hacking is possible?
So I think that was the most interesting part about this attack, that it is a 0-click and a 0-day vulnerability as well. So basically they found a vulnerability in the WhatsApp application. So if you have WhatsApp installed on your phone, they will make a call, and when you're making a call, certain data is coming from the internet to your phone, and using that payload they are injecting some code in your phone by which they can exploit it. So exact details is like even I did not dive into the depths of it because it is quite challenging thing to do. It's not very easy, sir.
Okay. When I become a forest service officer, actually nowhere in your DAF this is suggested that you can have any interest in forest. You're coming from a state which has negligible forest cover.
Yes, sir.
How come this sudden love for forests?
So the fact that we have less number of forests in Gurgaon, and so I like to do jogging also, and the amount of air pollution that we have in Gurgaon. So it has always been I thought that something needs to be done about these things. Not that I can individually suddenly do something, but I believe that every citizen deserves clean air, so they can like have a healthy lifestyle. So it is. I've always been like interested in that our environmental should be conserved. So if we look at landfills in Gurgaon, just like 5 kilometers from Gurgaon, we have a landfill, and sir, I have, for a school project, I have to go there and also look at it. So if you see, these things can be sustainably managed, but these things are not being done, sir. So those things, I think, needs to be done, sir.
If you look at internationally from the environmental front, especially, for example, the Brazil Amazon thing, it seems that the politics, especially in developing countries, for example, there in Brazil, to some extent in our country also, is not really in happy marriage to environment. It appears that the politics is hell-bent on destroying environment. What do you say, especially in your comment on the Brazil and Bolsonaro incident?
So I believe gradually the politicians and the governments are also realizing how important environment is, because if they are not conserving it now, they are facing the challenges later on. In the form of wildfires they are having, which causes even a much larger economic impact than just simply clearing an Amazon forest. So gradually, I think that awareness is seeping in the people as well. And so since the government is the representative of the people themselves are making pressure on the government so that their voice can be heard and the environmental aspects.
But why Bolsonaro is refusing to accept that there is any environmental crisis in cutting Amazon?
So that could be because of no scientific consensus on this. There are definitely a large amount of scientific community that has objective data on it, but certainly there are other scientific researchers also who can present a different picture. So in that scenario, sir, I think it can be a challenge for any government to make a decision when they are getting different information.
Fine, thank you.
Sparsh,
good afternoon, sir.
The data you have given in your DAF is a little confusing. You have mentioned that your father's income in 1920 was 5,50,220 rupees and your mother's income was 2,30,320 rupees.
Yes, sir.
In the table.
Yes,
but
sir.
on the first page, you have mentioned that your father's income is 7,19,110
Yes, sir.
and mother's income is 550. How to explain this inconsistency?
So the data on the first page, in that the exact year is not mentioned for which you have to enter the income. So that is for the year, the most recent year, and which is not included in those 3 years which are needed.
Okay, so that is 2021.
Yes, sir. So
okay.
That year is different, sir.
So now we invite the PM's resolve in 2017. That PM said that by 2022, farmers' income would be doubled.
Yes, sir.
So how to get the record whether a farmer's income is increasing and doubling or not?
So as a farmer, so our major concern is that we get a good like this time for the first harvest. As
my issue is how the accounting is a problematic issue. How to take a proper account whether income is actually growing or not?
So we can calculate like what was the base price they were getting 5 years back for the crop, and then accounting for inflation, what is the price we are getting now.
Fine. One of the biggest problems in agriculture is prevalence of disguised unemployment.
Yes, sir.
What do you understand by this?
So disguised unemployment is when you are employing more number of people than that are actually needed in that particular job.
That means agriculture is overburdened with population. That means we don't need as many workers as they are engaged. So there is a need to withdraw some of the workers from agriculture.
Correct, sir.
How to do that?
So for that particular aspect, we can have so training them. So one of the major thing I can think is of food processing industry. So that will employ people from this sector.
Fine. So can you cite the names of certain programs of the Haryana government to ensure development of food processing industry so as to ensure migration of extra workers from agriculture to industry?
Sir, I cannot recall right
okay.
now.
My final question is that one of the strategies to increase the income of farmer is to promote biofuel crops.
Yes, sir.
Which is a value-added product. It will increase income farmers faster than traditional crops. What do you understand by biofuels? Can you cite examples of biofuel crops?
So biofuels are the fuels from which we can extract oil, and that can be used as a source of combustion in either vehicles or in power plants.
Fine.
Sir,
Crops.
So some crops would be, so we can have tamarind oil. From the tamarind seeds we have tamarind oil that can be used. So we can also have so cassava seeds, I remember.
Some minor forest produce can also be used as source of biofuel. It can be used as biocrops. Can you name those minor forest produce?
Sir, I cannot recall right now. So.
Fine, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
How do we define forest and where do we define it?
Ma'am, we have different definitions for forest. It's in one is in Indian Forest Act 1927. We have a definition for forest area.
What does it say? When do we say that it is a forest area?
Ma'am, when it is recorded as a forest area in the government records, then we.
Okay. So if an area is, and how does government decide that it is a forest area? What is the tree cover? I'm asking in that sense. Do you have any idea? How do we decide that forest area is there? Out of 1 hectare of land, how much tree cover should be there? How much percentage of land should be covered with tree?
Ma'am, in Forest Survey of India, they have this in 1 hectare of land. If a tree cover is, I'm actually not sure if it is 10%. Then
it is 10% actually.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and if I say if there's a bamboo plantation.
Yes, ma'am.
Of more than 10% in an area, would that be coming under forest or not?
Yes, ma'am. It is the minimum should be 10%, ma'am. Greater
so
than.
Bamboo plantations would be equated to trees?
Ma'am, very recently there was an amendment that bamboo will not be counted as a tree in Indian Forest Act, ma'am.
You sure about it?
Yes, ma'am.
What about oil palm?
Ma'am, oil palm, it depends if it is on a plantation or is it on a government land that is like a natural land.
Okay. And what was the difference? How would that difference measure in accounting?
Ma'am, because in plantation you are growing it for sale.
So it won't be covered under forest?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what are deemed forests? Recently, state of Karnataka was in news regarding denotifying its deemed forest. What are deemed forests?
I'm not sure about it, ma'am.
Okay, and if I ask you, what are keystone species? And can you name some of the keystone species along with their ecosystem in various parts of India? Can you remember some?
Ma'am, keystone species are the species which have a disproportionate impact on the environment for their size.
Okay.
For their biomass.
So, give me some examples according to their ecosystems.
Ma'am, one would be definitely tiger. Because it...
Okay, no, I agree. Then?
Ma'am, secondly, in the coastal ecosystems, we have starfish. Ma'am, because they feed on...
No, I understand. You just name the species along with the system.
Corals, I would say, in the oceans.
Corals, is it a species?
Yes.
What is the component of coral?
Ma'am, they are made of polyps and...
zooxanthellae.
Yes, ma'am.
So are they together considered a species?
Ma'am, separately they would be.
Okay. Any keystone species you can make out in Western Ghats?
Ma'am, elephants.
Elephants.
Yes, ma'am.
And what about bees, butterflies?
I am not sure if they are keystone species.
Okay. You're not sure bees would be counted as keystone species?
Ma'am, they are definitely necessary for pollination and like propagation of plants. But I'm not sure if exactly they are.
Okay. Recently, it has been said that Wildlife Protection Act has become more of Anti-People Act and it should be scrapped away. Do you have an opinion about it? Are the provisions good or should we review the Wildlife Protection Act in the context of rising man-animal conflicts?
Ma'am, man-wildlife conflict is a concern in states like Karnataka, where they have farmers are much more, elephants invade on farmers' land area and their crops are trampled, and tigers also. Ma'am, so Wildlife Protection Act, I believe there can be certain more provisions that can be done so that people are getting their compensation in a faster manner. So this is one of the concerns that is raised by the farmers there. that so ma'am, we can have
In case you want to compensate the casualties in forms of death by monetary, do you think that is a sufficient clause for that?
ma'am, we can also have surveillance, better surveillance. We can have better tracking of the herds of elephants that are coming in, and we can notify the people beforehand if someone is some herd is coming towards their fields.
Yeah.
So they can be much more careful about that. Ma'am, there was also recently a program managing wildlife conflict using bees, in which they are creating walls. They have bees nest, and so elephants generally don't cross that. So these kind of innovative solutions can also be used.
Okay. My last question to you. Your state, Haryana, has taken an exercise called tree census. Are you aware of it?
Ma'am, sorry,
No?
I'm not aware.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Sparsh, you must be aware of this the Delhi-Mumbai Expressway.
Yes, sir.
Must have read also articles on that. The claim of the government is that this expressway is going to be a harbinger of economic growth. It will give boost to industries, it will provide employment to lakhs and lakhs of people. But there is also a theory which says that this expressway is a shortcut to socio-ecological disaster in the country. Do you subscribe to which school? One which is claimed by the government, and other concern which is expressed by the environmentalists?
Sir, I see there are both. There's certain degree of truth in both sides. So definitely with this expressway we'll have a faster mode of transport, and since we are almost restricted in trade from our northern border side, so we need to have a faster route to the sea. So definitely in that sense, sir, it will help us in growth. But at the same time there are certain concerns that this expressway would affect the environment in a negative way. So sir, I believe we should try to mitigate or reduce the impact of this particular project.
How will you mitigate it? Places like Ranthambore is getting affected, Aravali Hill is getting affected, Vindhyas are getting affected, Satpura range is getting affected. So what is the mid path? What is the midway? Is it either yes or no? Can you have an economic growth at the cost of environment?
So definitely, sir, there will be some negative impact of a development project on environment. We cannot reduce it to zero. So we can have like green corridors that can help for easy migration of species that are living in these regions. That has been done before also, even a road project. So these linear projects, we can have a region in which they can cross these regions. So in that way.
Are you aware of the concept of environmental impact assessment?
Yes, sir.
How it is done?
So there are different stages in EIA. So first they go through the scoping phase.
Who are they?
So that would be the agency that has been appointed for doing the EIA. So that can be set up by the project, whoever is doing the project. So they can set up an EIA committee that will look into that, sir.
Okay, thank you, Sparsh. Thank you very much. Your interview is over.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Come, Sparsh. Sit.
Thank you, sir.
Your dates are still not come.
No, sir.
When is likely to be announced?
So I'm hoping after prelims, sir.
After prelims. When is the prelims?
Sir, it's 5th June.
So any day after 5th June
Yes,
should
sir.
come. Okay. As far as you are a very decent candidate, a very honest person, and you interacted well with the board members. You have a great deal of clarity also. Only thing is that the date has not been announced, so it will take some time. So try to be more effective when you speak on any issue.
Right, sir.
The issue you have to prioritize your many questions. You were by and large aware, but how to present it in a very precise manner.
Right, sir.
That you have to slightly gradually pick up. That will make your presentation much more effective.
Right, sir.
And because you are trying to become a member of the forest service.
Yes, sir.
So forest, what is forest, what is tree, how it is different from act, you have to really, with all its amendments, you have to really very clear about the provisions of the act, although it's a very vast one, but the basic principles guiding the forest policy of the country, you have to be very clear about that, because that is going to be your bread and butter in future, isn't
Correct,
it?
sir.
And then while you prepare a project, then what are the issues involved before you clear that project for implementation or execution. So there your theories of social impact assessment, environmental impact assessment, all these things come into picture. How it is done, what are the stages that you are supposed to be knowing as an aspirant for the forest services.
Yes, sir.
Then your Haryana is a forest deficit state. So how to improve or increase the green belt in Haryana, that is one thing.
Yes, sir.
Related will be your environment in general. It may be carbon neutral, it may be green energy, it may be renewable sources of energy and all that. On those areas, I think prepare yourself thoroughly.
Right, sir.
So that should consume at least 50% of your interview time.
Correct, sir.
So that is one thing. Then these type of opinion based questions may be asked. This expressway, that river, that bridge over river. So what are the pitfalls of that and what are the advantages? You took a very moderate line, that is how you should take. Try to be more specific with more data and more inputs. Then that will be, you will appear to be very informed.
Right, sir.
Then prepare your state thoroughly, your wetlands. There are 2 wetlands in your Haryana, Sultanpur Bird Sanctuary, Jhajjar.
Yes.
So read about that also. I mean, these answers you should be fully conversant with.
Correct, sir.
Otherwise, absolutely a good candidate, very good candidate, very honest, simple. So no issues with you. And try to be more assertive and bring some smile on your face.
Correct.
Isn't it? Radiance on your face, that will add to your personality, and
Correct, sir.
be positive.
Yes, sir.
Be positive. The positive body language and a smile on face will add to your performance. And then 2-3 things. When you are talking to the board members,
Yes, sir.
while talking to our fellow lady colleague member,
Yes, sir.
you shifted to that side.
Okay, sir.
That is not done. You are not supposed to be shifting bodily from this side to that side.
Right, sir.
So that makes sure that you sit the way you sit.
Correct.
And then look at her. The eye movement has to be like that only.
Right, sir.
The movement of eye, not the body.
Right, sir.
That is what is important. Try to restrict your hand movement also a bit,
Correct, sir.
isn't it? And third thing is that when you sit, after sitting, you should unbutton your,
Yes, sir. Right, sir.
isn't it? You practice it.
Correct, sir.
So that when you go for the final this thing, it doesn't, you don't miss on this.
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, all good with you, and you will do well. So prepare. You are getting a lot of time.
Yes, sir.
Yes, make preparations on these lines, and you'll be doing. Your performance is going to be really good.
Correct, sir.
Chalo, wish you all the best.
All the best.
Thank you, sir.
All the best.
Thank you.